It is ultimately important for you to look at your goals, truly what you want to do in your life, and then look at the people who you spend the most time with in your life and figure out if that lines up.
All right, what's happening? Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode. It's a Friday episode of Morning Perspective. It is Friday, November 8th, 2019, which means we have less than 60 days left, guys, in 2019. I'm looking out my window this morning and I see snow outside in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So the end of the year is coming, guys. It is upon us. And so as these days come, as the year goes deeper and deeper, closer to the end, what we find in business, in life, in all of these areas that we try to focus on improving here on this show, we find that people have a hard time maintaining a positive attitude, and sometimes people lose a bit of motivation. So we're going to talk about that this morning. We're going to talk about how to get motivated, how to stay motivated, how to create or maintain the right attitude. And I hope this one's helpful for you guys. I hope the timing is good. And man, I'm just happy to be here. It's good to get back in this groove after being off for a little bit. So with that said, let's jump right into the content this morning. So, when it comes to staying motivated, guys, there's a couple of things that I think really impact people's motivation in a negative way that I think a lot of people don't even really think about when it comes to how we handle ourselves, how we carry ourselves day to day. And that is being careful who we take advice from. So, some of the most difficult ways to stay motivated is if you're around the wrong people or you're getting advice from the wrong people, because those people will make you question your motivation to do certain things. And it happens to me all the time in my life when I'm talking about ideas that we have or things that we want to execute. And I share those with people that don't think the same way as I do. What ends up happening is that, those people are quick to offer their advice to you, but their advice is not necessarily qualified advice to even be, providing to you. And so that's the number one thing, is I would say be very careful who you take advice from, because if you wouldn't trade places with that person on that particular item, that particular topic, then I would not be taking advice from that person. So that is one way that can be a challenge to stay motivated. On the flip side of that situation, if you get advice from the right people, it's going to put jet fuel in your tank, and you're going to be off to the races, extremely motivated to do the things that you need to do to achieve those things that you're out to achieve. So just be careful of who you are taking advice from, who is guiding you, and who's giving you information. Because, in a lot of cases, guys, you're going to get some advice that might seem like quality advice, but at the end of the day, that advice could be just laced with a little bit of negativity, right? Laced with a little bit of doubt. And if that's the case, if you're getting that type of advice, it's going to naturally build a little bit of hesitance into your motivation. So very important to be careful about who you take advice from. The number two thing that I will say here is don't sweat the small stuff. In life, in business, in every aspect of your life, relationships, personal relationships, business relationships, there's going to be a lot of things that happen. And there's going to be a lot of things that happen that you don't like. And if you get wrapped up, as I like to say, wrapped around the axle, if you get wrapped up in those little things, if you spend all of your time playing in the small stuff, listening to rumors or reacting to things that people have to say, or not accepting criticism the right way, All of those types of things, that's playing in the small stuff, right? They always say, you'll never be a professional if you continue to play in the minors, right? Patricia, what a great book. I read that book probably for the first time 20 years ago. Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. If you guys don't have that book, I've bought it for a ton of people over the years. But if you don't have that book and you are a person that you find yourself sweating the small stuff, it's a great book to read to just give you a better perspective. But be careful, guys, about how much you're doing that stuff. And by the way, we all do it. We all find ourselves in those situations reacting to things that we shouldn't react to, just, kind of getting involved in those things that aren't going to matter to us long term. So one of the things that I say pretty frequently is, if it's not going to matter 5 years from now, try not to spend more than 5 minutes doing it. So just keep that in mind. Don't sweat the small stuff. So, and thank you, Tricia, for sharing out. If you guys could share this out. I know that when we moved over to this page, there's some people that I'm not sure get this page in their feed. So I think it will help if you guys share it out. It'll help some people that are regulars kind of find their way back over here to watching regularly on the every single morning. So if you guys could share it out or tag some friends, anybody that you think would be, that this content would be helpful for, I would appreciate it. Third bullet point. So long-term vision, but short-term goals. And here's something that I see in a lot of people, that they get really caught up in either being in one of those things or the other. They either have a super long-term vision, and so it restricts them from getting stuff done on a day-to-day basis, where it's really important to keep moving forward, to keep pushing, to set those short, what I call sprint goals. You have sprint goals and you have marathon goals. That's the comparison of short-term goals and long-term vision. But what happens, guys, if you only have short-term goals, when you hit that adversity, it's going to slow you down. It's going to make you question what you're doing, and it's going to be really difficult for you to continue at the same pace that you were. But if you have a long-term vision that goes along with those short-term goals, it's going to allow you to push through those moments of adversity and stay motivated when other people would typically fall off. And so it's really important for you to maintain both of those things: a short-term goals, your list of short-term sprint goals, and then also a long-term vision that allows you to overcome almost anything that you would encounter, whether it be in life, in business, and realizing that in the short term, everything isn't always going to work out for the long-term plan. But if you just keep putting one foot in front of the other every single day, no matter how far behind you are to your goals, you're going to start closing that gap. And when you start closing that gap, you're going to catch some momentum. And then you're going to find yourself, catching a little bit of a sprint towards closing that gap and getting to that long-term vision that you originally had set out to achieve in the first place. That happened. Tricia can speak to this for our company this year. We kind of just had an off couple of months where we weren't on the pace that we were, but we just kept doing the same things. We kept working the process, pushing a little bit harder, putting in a little bit more time, kind of just going back to what got us to where we were in the first place. And over a period of a couple of months, we closed that gap, and now we're right where we're supposed to be. And at the end of the year here, we have come on strong, and bam, now we're right where we're supposed to be. So it's having those short-term goals and being willing to adjust those short-term goals, put in a little bit more, but that will keep you motivated by adjusting those short-term goals, always maintaining a long-term vision. Here's another one of staying motivated. Thinking bigger. If there is one piece of advice that I could give you guys, as far as what I have learned in my life, and I just had this conversation, I believe, with my boy Kevin Gray yesterday, and it was, we were talking about how much progress we've made over the past handful of years here, and then at the same time, what my comment to Kevin is, man, I am 1,000% positive that we are still playing too small. We are still not doing things. We don't have a big enough vision yet to really fulfill what our capabilities are, what our real true potential is, what our impact could be, how large our companies are, how much we could do for other people, how much we could give back. We have to continue pushing ourselves to think bigger and get around other people. And I'll tell you why thinking big is so important to staying motivated. And I'll use a story to define this. I was working with a client a couple of years ago that's a pretty large client, $20-something million paving company. And when they told me what they wanted to do the following year, and some of you may have heard this story already, they told me that they wanted to be like a 3 to 5% increase in revenue for that year. And my response to them was, you might as well tell your employees to do the same exact thing as they did last year, because nobody gets motivated about small achievements. It just doesn't excite people. It doesn't make me want to be on that team. If all you have are little, small, tiny goals, then it doesn't excite me to come to work. I want to come to work. I want to be around people that are thinking big, that are trying to do big things, that are pushing as hard as they can possibly push to get us in a position to do big things, both professionally, personally, being able to give back, all those kinds of things. And so the bigger you think, the smaller those problems are that come your way, right? Grant Cardone says something along, have goals so big that your problems pale in comparison. And that is a really important thing to remember and think about as you're setting your goals in your life. Goes back to don't sweat the small stuff. If you don't have big enough goals, you're going to sweat the small stuff, because the small stuff is going to be what stops you in your tracks when you don't have big enough goals. When you got big enough goals, you don't worry about stuff like that, because it doesn't really matter. I can't worry about all this little petty stuff when I'm trying to do big things that I don't have time to get involved in those stuff if I want to achieve. So think about that. Next thing, hard work will always beat talent when talent doesn't work. So staying motivated, guys, is critical for those people who have a ton of talent, but they find themselves very inconsistent. Anybody ever work around somebody like that? I certainly have. Hard work will always crush talent if the talent isn't focused, disciplined, and working hard. And what you find is that there's a lot of people, if they can maintain their motivation and they can continue working hard, they can have less talent, but they can achieve a lot more than that person that's naturally gifted if that person's not putting in the work. So you have to remember that, because if you are the person that's talented, staying motivated is going to be the key to you maintaining the distance to your competition. Because if you don't continue to work hard, if that person is willing to work hard, they can have a lot less talent and they can still mop the floor with you if you don't stay focused, motivated, and moving things forward. Next bullet. Fear can starve your drive. Remember this, guys. The moment that you feel fear, that you start to get a little anxious about something, that you're not feeling completely dialed in, completely normal when it comes to your day-to-day activities, because you have some kind of anxiety or fear that you're thinking about, it will starve your drive and it will starve your ability to make progress. 100%. I see people all the time that come into our business that start as a salesperson, and they're so motivated and they're so ready to go. They're ready to tackle. They're ready to climb the mountain. They're ready to just do anything it takes to be successful. They get 1 month in or a month and a half in, and things aren't going exactly the way that they would want them to. And that fear starts to take over. What if I fail? How am I going to explain this to my family? What are people going to think? These are all the things that people worry about. And that takes over their thoughts instead of what they actually need to be doing, the actual activity that they need to be doing to be successful. And so when you guys allow fear to sit in your mind for a long, extended period of time, this is what happens. It sucks that motivation right out of you, because you're allowing the wrong thoughts to grow in your mind. And so if you can keep fear at bay, you can just recognize it, deal with it, and set it to the side because you know what it's going to take to be successful, which is going to lead me to my final point here on staying motivated. You know what it takes to be successful. That's what you need to do. Spending time being afraid of failure is not the answer. Activity and massive action is the answer when you're afraid. Because if you sit around thinking about fear, you're going to manufacture more of it. If you don't spend time sitting around thinking about what if or what could happen, then you're going to find yourself a lot more motivated, because the reality is that fear will never do anything positive for you. Action, massive action, will choke out the fear in your life because you don't have time to be afraid. The only thing you have time to do is take action. And every moment that you are not taking action, instead you are spending time being afraid or thinking about what if or what could be, it's just more time wasted. And we only have, guys, from here to here left in this life to make shit happen. So if you're spending a majority of that time, or some of that time, a percentage of that time, worried about what if instead of taking action towards what you want to achieve, then it's going to starve your motivation. You're going to have a really hard time driving forward and achieving your goals, and it's going to take you a lot longer. So the more times you can punch fear in the face and keep moving forward, the faster you're going to be successful. And the last point that I have here, which ties into the last thing, is be a cheater. You do not have to create a new path or a new way to do everything, especially in this information age that we live in, where you can jump on a show like this. You can access somebody on social media. I can't tell you guys how many people I answer messages to a week, just giving them some little tip, or how would you do this, or whatever it is. There are a lot of people out there that have already done things that you are trying to do. Never hesitate to reach out to those people, because when I say be a cheater, it means take somebody else's idea, make it your own, improve it, adjust it to your personality, but don't try to reinvent the wheel. Because at the end of the day, when you get afraid, when that fear sets in, what you need to do is take action. And instead of thinking about how you're going to take action, you should already know that information, or you should ask somebody that information so that you can spend less time thinking about what to do and more time immediately going into action and moving forward. So don't ever try to reinvent the wheel. Be a cheater. Call somebody, reach out to somebody. And by the way, guys, when you do that, the easiest way for you to get advice from other people who have already done things or who are successful, the influencers out there that you see that you may want to ask advice from, let me give you some tips on how to do that, because I have gotten tons of these DMs or messages, and it is always cool, man. There's a lot of people that when they send their messages, they make an offer to me as to, hey, I'm not sure what I could do for you, but if there's anything, I am open to doing whatever if you are willing to help me. And most of the time, I don't take them up on that unless there's something that maybe down the road we can collaborate on, or somehow we can mutually benefit each other. But the reality is, guys, if you take that approach, you are going to be successful 99% of the time getting a response from someone if you are offering to do something for them, if you are genuinely interested in that person. People that send me messages that say, hey, man, I've been following your content. I just had somebody last night send me something that said, hey, man, been following your content for a while. Love the fact that you spend a lot of time with your kids and that you show people your kids. I think that's really important. And here's a question for you. And that person immediately got a response, right? Because that person is actually genuinely interested. They're actually paying attention to what I do. And of course, that makes somebody feel good. It makes you feel a real connection to that person. Instead of, I want to take a bunch of information from you to benefit me, but I don't want to do anything in return. Because here's what happens, guys. When you are constantly giving people advice, what you realize is that most people don't actually put that advice into action. They just want the information to be able to say they have the information, but they don't actually put it into action. It's those people that take the time to do the right things that are always going to put it into action. Those are the people that follow these tips, that stay motivated, right? That are always pushing forward in the right direction, that are always moving things in a positive way in their life, and they're also trying to help other people do the same. And so those are the people that I want to help the most. I want to help everybody, but at the end of the day, those are the people that I am far more likely to help the most. So if you guys have any questions on this topic, drop them in the comments, and I'd be happy to answer them later on today or this morning here. I got a couple more calls this morning that I got to hop on. But I hope these tips were helpful. So let me run through the list one more time to give you guys a summary, because I know we blew through a lot of information here this morning in a short period of time. But number one, be careful who you take advice from. Don't take it from the wrong people. They will send you in the wrong direction. Number two, don't sweat the small stuff. Don't get involved in petty conversations or petty things that aren't going to serve your future. Number three, long-term vision, but short-term goals. Very important, guys, to maintain both of those things at all times. If you don't have both of those sets of goals, long-term goals and short-term goals, and I'm talking maybe it's week to week, maybe it's month to month, whatever works for you, but you got to have both to be able to accomplish something. And we can dig in. That's a good topic maybe for next week. Maybe we can dig into those long-term goals. And I'll tell you guys how some of my long-term goals from years ago have come to reality here in the last year to 2 years. Fourth, thinking bigger. Make sure you are thinking bigger, because if you're not, you're going to sell yourself short on everything that you want to accomplish in your life. Number five, hard work will always beat talent when talent doesn't work. Make sure you're maintaining your motivation, your drive, and your push forward towards success. Number six, fear, if you allow it to take over, it will always starve your drive and motivation. So you have to recognize that fear to be able to stay motivated and put it in its place. And last but not least is be a cheater. Don't try to reinvent the wheels, guys. You can absolutely take other people's ideas, other people's things, make them your own, make them better. Everybody that's out on the internet today almost is doing something along those lines. There are no new ideas anymore. Everybody has tried everything at some point, and all we're trying to do is take and mold ideas together to put something together that really makes sense to people and makes things easier and more efficient and all those kinds of things. So never be afraid to duplicate somebody else's idea. That's all I got, guys. It is 7:54 a.m. I got another call here at 8 o'clock. I appreciate you guys tuning in this morning. I saw Judd jumped on here. AJ, what's happening? Christina, Patricia, Trisha, Dean, the normal crew is all here. Carrie Ann, thank you guys for tuning in. I hope it was beneficial to you. If it was, please share it out to your page so we can connect with more people. We can get more people on this stream in the morning. We can get more people watching the replay. Let's make it happen. We're still available on iTunes, podcast everywhere, Stitcher, Spotify, you name it. We got it going on all over the place. So appreciate you guys. I hope you guys have an awesome Friday, an incredible weekend, and I will see you guys bright and early on Monday morning right here, same place, same time. Love you guys. Have a great day.